Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nasta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Continuing our reading with Srimad Bhagavatam, and today we're reading from Canto 6, Chapter 2, text number 24 to 25. Ajamil delivered by the Vishnu Dutas. Ajamilo Api Atakarnya Dutanam Yama Krishnayo Dharmam Bhagavatam Shuddham Trivedyam Cha Gunasrayam Bhaktiman. Starting with the second verse here. Bhaktiman Bhagavati Ashu Mahatmya Shravanad Dhare Anutapo Mahan Asit Smarato Ashubham Atmanaha Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Mahatmya Shravanadhare Mahatmya Shravanadhare Anutapo Mahan Asit Anutapo Mahan Asit Smarato Shubhamatmanaha Smarato Shubhamatmanaha Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Mahatmya Shravanadhare Anutapo Mahanasit Smarato Shubhamatmanaha Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Mahatmya Shravanadhare Anutapo Mahanasit Smarato Shubhamatmanaha. Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Mahatmya Shravanadhare Anutapo Mahanasit Smarato Shubhamatmanaha. Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Mahatmya Shravanadhare Nutapo Mahanasit Smarato Shubhamatmanaha. Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Mahatmya Shravanadhare Anutapo Mahanasit Smarato Shubhamatmanaha. Madhijis. Bhaktiman Bhagavatyashu Mahatmya Shravanadhare Anuttapo mahanasit smarato shubhamatmanaha. Anyone else? Bhaktiman bhagavatyashu mahatmya shravanadhare anudapo mahanasit smarato shubhamatmanaha. We'll read word for both verses. Ajamila, Ajamila, Api, also, Ata, thereafter, Akarnya, hearing, Dutanam, of the order carriers, Yamakrishnaya, of Yamaraj and Lord Krishna, Dharmam, actual religious principles, Bhagavatam, as described in Srimad Bhagavatam, or concerning the relationship between the living being and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shuddham, pure. Traivedyam, mentioned in 3 Vedas. Cha, also. Gunashrayam, material religion, under the modes of material nature. Bhaktiman, a pure devotee, cleansed of the material modes of nature. Bhagavati, under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ashu, immediately. Mahatmya, glorification of the name, fame, etc. Shravanat, because of hearing. Hare, of Lord Hari. Anuttapa, regret. Mahan, very great. Asit, there was. Smarata, remembering. Ashubham, all the inglorious activities. Atmanaha, done by himself. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After hearing the discourses between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas, Ajamil could understand the religious principles that act under the 3 modes of material nature. These principles are mentioned in the 3 Vedas. He could also understand the transcendental religious principles which are above the modes of material nature and which concern the relationship between the living being and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Furthermore, Ajamil heard glorification of the name, fame, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He thus became a perfectly pure devotee. He could then remember his past sinful activities, which he greatly regretted having performed. Please repeat. After hearing the discourses between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas, Ajamil could understand the religious principles that act under the 3 modes of material nature. These principles are mentioned in the 3 Vedas. He could also understand the transcendental religious principles, which are above the modes of material nature, and which concern the relationship between the living being and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Furthermore, Ajamil heard glorification of the name, fame, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He thus became a perfectly pure devotee. He could then remember his past sinful activities, which he greatly regretted having performed. Srila Prabhupada's purport. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 45, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Trigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna, Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvarshto, Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. The Vedas mainly deal with the subject of the three modes of material nature. Rise above these modes, O Arjuna. Be transcendental to all of them. Be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain in self-safety, and be established in the self. The Vedic principles certainly prescribe a gradual process for rising to the spiritual platform. But if one remains attached to the Vedic principles, there is no chance of his being elevated to spiritual life. Krishna therefore advised Arjuna to perform devotional service, which is the process of transcendental religion. The transcendental position of devotional service is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1, Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 6. Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhakti radhoksaje. Bhakti, devotional service, is paro dharmaha, transcendental dharma. It is not material dharma. People generally think that religion should be pursued for material profit. This may be suitable for persons interested in material life, but one who is interested in spiritual life should be attached to paro dharma, the religious principles by which one becomes a devotee of the Supreme Lord. Yato bhaktir adhoksaje. The Bhagavata religion teaches that the Lord and the living entity are eternally related, and that the duty of the living entity is to surrender to the Lord. When one is situated on the platform of devotional service, one is freed from impediments and completely satisfied. Ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasiditi. Having been elevated to that platform, Ajamil began to lament for his past material activities and glorify the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar Lalita Vishaka ki jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki jai. Ajamilo Pitakarnya Dutanam Yamakrishnayo Dharmam Bhagavatam Shudham Traivedyam Chagunasrayam Bhaktiman Bhagavat Yashu Mahatmya Shravana Dare Anutapo Mahanasit Smarato Shubham Atmanaha. After hearing the discourses between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas, Ajamil could understand the religious principles that act under the three modes of material nature. These principles are mentioned in the three Vedas. He could also understand the transcendental religious principles which are above the modes of material nature and which concern the relationship between the living being and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Furthermore, Ajamil heard glorification of the name, fame, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He thus became a perfectly pure devotee. He could then remember his past sinful activities, which he greatly regretted having performed. Om Ajnanatmanandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshorun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dena Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namustute Tapta Kanchano Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshware Shabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Udithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So now we're getting towards the end of this most amazing story of Ajamil delivered by the Vishnu Dutas. And there's so many lessons to be gotten from this story. This story is applicable especially to us who have taken birth in Western culture and who have grown up following the concocted religious principles of meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. When I first read this verse, the analogy came to my mind that at least in the Western countries, those born in families such as mine, we were just like Ajamil, and although we didn't know it at the time, we practically already had the nooses of Yamaraj around our necks, and we were being dragged to hell, living a completely, more or less, unconscious life, somehow or other, by incredible good fortune. We got the good fortune, somehow or other, by perfect timing. Of Srila Prabhupada, who came to the West, starting with America, with so many difficulties at such an advanced age, leaving Vrindavan Dham. He was quite content. There was no need for him to leave, but because of his pure love and dedication to the mission of his spiritual master, and for his immense compassion for all the fallen living beings in Kali Yuga, he went and came to America. It's explained that good fortune, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona, Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai, Bhakti Lata Bij, that after Brahmanda, after traveling through innumerable universes, how many universes are there? It explains that there's millions of planets within this one universe. And there's millions of different universes within the Mahatattva. So it's literally unlimited. So it's explained that one is considered most fortunate if somehow or other, after wandering through the 8,400,000 species of life in all the different millions of universes, somehow or other, one comes in contact with the spiritual master, the bona fide spiritual master. It is considered most rare and most fortunate. That somewhere in the Vedas is explained that good fortune is compared with the chances of a turtle in the middle of the ocean, and the turtles swim within the water, but at some time they have to come up for air. So what are the chances of one of those turtles in the vast, immense ocean coming up for air and happening to stick its head through an open knot in a piece of driftwood floating on the ocean. What are those? What are those odds? So similarly, what are the odds of someone like me taking birth in demoniac society, living my whole life in ignorance due to obvious unlimited activities, sinful activities in previous births, somehow or other coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada and somehow or other having the good fortune to surrender to his lotus feet. So the analogy that came to my mind was Srila Prabhupada says that devotees of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord, can be compared with the Vishnu Dutas. So Srila Prabhupada was certainly a Vishnu Duta who came to the Western world to save us, who already had the nooses of Yamaraj around our necks. And if it weren't for Srila Prabhupada, we would be right now suffering all the results of the incredibly heinous sinful activities which we've just read about, described at the end of the 5th canto. So Ajamil was lying there in bed, having performed so many sinful activities his whole life. It's explained he would beg, borrow, steal, maybe even he killed people to support the prostitute. So this is the danger of illicit connection with women. Women are compared with fire, man is compared with butter. Fire is great on its own accord, butter also is great. But when the two mix, there's an extreme reaction. It's explained in Shastra that the quality of chastity which a woman has is it's very powerful. And that chastity is like a door which can swing open or closed. And when that chastity is honored, and chastity is honored in a woman by, of course, her following the regulative principles and understanding the danger of the association with man and woman. So both the man and the woman must, upon coming together, understand the great danger in association which does not have restriction, in which that chastity of the woman is not upheld by both parties. So the man has to respect the chastity in the woman, and the woman has to understand the great importance of preserving that chastity. And there's so many instructions in the Vedas, there's so many ways that is done. And of course, that is done primarily by coming to the spiritual platform. By coming to the spiritual platform. And Srila Prabhupada, of course, was the supreme example of this, because up to Srila Prabhupada's time, women were given practically very, very little freedom in terms of actively taking a part in Krishna consciousness. And women were resigned simply to serve the man by, executing so many household duties. Women would very seldom go out of the home. And then now we have Srila Prabhupada, who's created the Brahmacharini ashram and empowering women to go out into public and to distribute Krishna conscious literature. And of course, women, Srila Prabhupada said on several occasions that women are like our secret weapon in Krishna consciousness. And we just heard on the scores this morning, usually the book distribution results every day are usually around 1,000 books. We heard this morning that yesterday the Women's Party distributed over 1,000 books just by themselves. Haribo! So certainly they're a very great weapon to be used in Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada was expert in using them. However, we can understand this story from Ajamil is very, very instructive. I mean, Ajamil was a pure Brahmin, and he was, his mind was controlled. He was performing strict, his service under strict regulatory vows. And simply in the process of executing his service, coming back from the forest, he just happened to see a lusty woman and a Sudra embrace, and he became captivated. And just by that thought, planted a seed, that remembrance of that holistic connection, planted a seed within his mind that he could not forget. And his lust grew, and his determination to get that Sudrani, get that lusty woman, and take her into his home, and give up it explains that he had a beautiful, pure, chaste wife that he gave up, and spent his whole life in untold number of sinful activities. So here he is now, lying on his bed. Yamadutas coming to take him away, the ropes around his neck, and is in complete desperation. He's calling out the name of his son, Narayan, Narayan! Not at all indicating the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but just out of love for his son. How kind is Krishna? How incredibly merciful is Krishna. It's inconceivable. There's that story in the Kartik Mahatmya of the mouse or rat who was in the temple of the Lord and was accustomed to eating the ghee in the ghee wicks on the altar of the Lord. So one time the mouse happened to, Arti was finished and the ghee lamp was sitting there, and so he bit the ghee wick in his mouth to suck the ghee. Turns out the ghee, the lamp still had a spark. It happened to ignite his whiskers on fire, and the mouse was jumping in front of the deity, up and down, and it finally dropped down dead. So Krishna, in his deity form, he's seeing this mouse on fire, jumping up and down, and he's thinking, wow, this mouse is so nice. He's offering me a lamp. He was thinking like that. And just see how merciful Krishna is. That mouse ended up getting liberation, going back to Vaikuntha and achieving a four-arm form. So, how incredibly fortunate are we to be taken our birth in Kali Yuga. We also read in the end of one of the chapters, in the fifth canto, all the demigods are explaining the incredibly exalted birth of those who take birth in Bhartavarsha. And it's explained that demigods are considering that birth to be so much more fortunate than their life in the heavenly planets. Because here, even in Bhartavarsha, there's so much duality of happiness and distress. And we actually have to experience that and get daily remembrance of that. In the end of the verse here, it says that Ajamil remembered his previous sinful activities, and he was it says he greatly regretted having performed them. This is the qualification of a devotee. Srila Prabhupada mentions further on in some of the subsequent verses, Srila Prabhupada will explain, that this should be the attitude of the devotee, and we should constantly remember where we came from and our unfortunate position we were in before we came to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, it's so important for us in our Krishna consciousness to engage in missionary activities and realize that the purpose of our purification is to also benefit others. Srila Prahlad Maharaj explains in a few verses in the 7th canto how, I'm not at all interested in simply sitting in a solitary place and chanting your holy name, my Lord, for my own benefit. But I want to go out and give that benefit to others. The holy name, your holy name, gives so much benefit. So that's easy to do. It's easy to realize our unfortunate situation before we come to Krishna consciousness, when we actually go out and see others suffering. And when we do, and when we realize who we were before we came to Krishna consciousness, this remembrance should ignite great enthusiasm in our heart for us to come to this second platform of Krishna consciousness, where we start realizing Krishna in everyone's heart. When we start realizing that, it's not just me, I'm a devotee. It's not just in the temple that they're devotees. But a devotee starts thinking honestly within himself, because of his own purification, because his own mind, he gains a little bit of purity and understanding and self-reflection. But he sees everyone who is engaging in so many different activities, material activities. He sees Krishna within their heart. And he starts thinking that, just like someone was giving class the other day, and he mentions that, a devotee naturally thinks that these people are much better devotees than I am. And when they become a devotee, and when they start practicing Krishna conscious principles, they'll become a much better devotee than I am, because they already have so many better qualities than I have. So we should never think that we're an advanced devotee, or just because we are initiated by a particular spiritual master, that we are necessarily more advanced than others. That's very easy to do. Once we're given a little respect and we're given some more facility, immediately the false ego latches onto that and tries to claim that as its property. And then our path to hell becomes open. Ajamil understood this discussion between the Vishnudutas and the Yamadutas, and therefore he could understand the principles of the Vedas, which the Yamadutas were talking about, which concern activities performed under the three modes of material nature. And he could understand the difference between that and transcendental activities. And the verse chanted here is Savai pum samparo dharmo yato bhaktir hoksade ahaituki apatiyata iyatma suprasidati. So what are we doing in Krishna consciousness? Why are we here? Why are we here? We're here because we're looking for this. We want this unmotivated. We want the happiness which comes from unmotivated, uninterrupted devotional service. And we can't cut any corners to get it. If we don't have unmotivated devotional service, which I don't have, after 40 years of chanting Hare Krishna, I can honestly say that I don't have it. But if we don't have it, then there's still a chance. The chance is to perform uninterrupted devotional service, to engage completely in devotional activities. There's a great opportunity for those who are visiting during Kartik, the opportunity of engaging in intense devotional service. So many wonderful activities are going on, traveling around Vrindavan, visiting different temples, seeing all these holy places. There's just so many incredible pure devotees have spent their time walking on the dust and living. So many incredible pastimes were performed in Vrindavan. Krishna's Leelas, of course, were here. But also, if once you perform those activities and you're looking for a little bit of intense devotional service, then I invite you to come and please be part of our 24-hour kirtan. And if you are a really enthusiastic, loud chanter, we invite you also to come and lead kirtan, but come to any of the different times that we're leading. And this is really recommended. This loud chanting of the holy name of the Lord is recommended by Haridas Thakur as at least 100 times more potent than the chanting of silent japa. So at this point, what I thought what I would do is just go through a number of verses which talk about the special potency of the holy name of the Lord. And you may have heard, I'm sure you've heard most of these before, but these are worth reciting and remembering. And let's see if I can find them here. Okay, here we go. This is from the Santarana Upanishad. The 16 names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Destroy all the inauspiciousness of the age of Kali. This is the conclusion of all the Vedas. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord is able to uproot even the reactions of the greatest sins. Therefore, the chanting of the Sankirtan movement is the most auspicious activity in the entire universe. One who chants the holy name of the Lord is immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins, even if he chants indirectly to indicate something else, jokingly for musical entertainment, or even neglectfully. This is accepted by all the learned scholars of the scriptures. It's from Srimad Bhagavatam 6.2.14. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur quotes the following verses from Smriti Shastra. Simply by chanting the holy name, simply by chanting one holy name of Hari, a sinful man can counteract the reactions to more sins than he is able to commit. That's from the Brihad Vishnu Purana. If one chants the holy name of the Lord, even in a helpless condition or without desiring to do so, all the reactions of his sinful life depart, just as when a lion roars, all the small animals flee in fear. The Nam Sankirtan, public chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, delivers a complete revelation of all spiritual reality. That's from the Brahmanda Purana. The holy name of Lord Ram certainly gives liberation, but the holy name of Krishna transports one to the other side of the ocean of nescience and at last gives one ecstatic love for Krishna from Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila. All the grievous sins of one who worships Lord Sri Hari, the Lord of all lords, and chants the holy name, the Maha Mantra, are removed from Padma Purana. Okay, so let's see where this is from. This is from Narada Pancharatra. This is nice. This says that this 16 name, 32 syllable mantra is the Maha Mantra in the age of Kali, by which all living beings can be delivered. One should never abandon chanting this Maha Mantra and take to so-called other purificatory processes, which are practiced by rascals, or engage in chanting other metrical compositions of the name of Krishna that are against the pure conclusions of the scriptures or are filled with rasabhas. About this divinely spiritual Maha Mantra, which delivers one from material existence, the original Guru, Lord Brahma, has said, Kalai Santaradi Shrutite. The Shrutis have declared this mantra to be the best means of deliverance in the age of Kali. Having all heard this from Brahma, the sons and disciples of Brahma, beginning from Narada, all accepted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and having meditated on it, attained perfection. This is from Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati. This specifically refers to our good fortune. When will my heart become sanctified? When will my heart become satiated by perfecting the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra in Sri Vrindavan Dham, which is the most merciful, Chaitanya Day, which is the most merciful, Sri Chaitanya Day, personally chanted and distributed to the fallen souls out of compassion. This wonderful Maha Mantra is mixed with the mellows of love and is the chief and perfection of all other mantras. They are full of spiritual energies and glories. It's from his Vrindavan Mahamrita. This is from the Naradiya Purana. Compared to that person who is attached to chanting japa, the person who performs loud chanting of the holy name of Sri Hari is 100 times better. Compared to a person who is attached to chanting japa, the person who performs loud chanting of the holy name of Sri Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is 100 times better. This is because the person who chants japa purifies himself, whereas the person who chants the holy name loudly in kirtan purifies himself, all those who are with him, and everyone who hear the holy vibration. This is from Srila Haridas Thakur. The animals, birds, and insects cannot chant the holy name, but by hearing the holy name chanted, they can benefit. Chanting the japa of the holy name of Lord Krishna purifies oneself, but the loud sankirtan of the holy name of Krishna benefits all living beings. Therefore, loud chanting of the holy name of Krishna in kirtan, you will get 100 times the benefit of chanting japa. This is the verdict of all the shastras. Okay, I think we'll stop there. Any questions or comments? Panchagoda Prabhu.
Those who get a chance to meet Prabhupada or just, be part of Prabhupada's movement, is that just by chance or good fortune, or how did it all work out like that? Mataji, please be quiet.
I would say both of those things for sure. And Sankarshan Prabhu very nicely told about the pastime where Srila Prabhupada told the disciple that I have created your good fortune. So we should definitely always think like that. Whatever qualification a devotee may have, his special qualification, it is he remembers that he has no qualification, and that our qualification is created by our spiritual master. Who was that Maharaj from Mayapur? What's his name? He gave class a few days ago. Bhakti Purushottama Swami. He gave such a wonderful class. And in his class, he was explaining how, whether we know it or not, all the good fortune that one has ultimately is coming from Vaishnavas. Such a wonderful class he gave. He explained it in so many different analytical ways. And so we should think like that. And the great danger is that we would ever commit aparad. This is the most grievous offense. We would commit an offense against the pure devotee of the Lord. I'm just going to insert a little bit and then I'm going to go back to the question. It's very, very important. This process of Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada explains it as a scientific process. And even Arjuna asked Krishna within the Bhagavad Gita, he asked him, what are the qualities of one who, as Krishna says, who has his consciousness merged in transcendence? How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he speak? From this we can understand that we have to analyze all the qualities of the pure devotee, and by this we can understand what level the pure devotee is on. Therefore, we accept Srila Prabhupada as the Stapakacharya of ISKCON, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and he exemplified those characteristics of pure devotion to the highest extent. He exhibited, although he tried to hide them, he exhibited the symptoms of pure devotion on such a high level. That's why it was incredible just being around the presence of Prabhupada. It was like being in the presence of Krishna. And there is therefore it's so important that we carry on following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, and we carry on following rules and regulations and procedures that were done in Srila Prabhupada's day and that Srila Prabhupada authorized, such as singing his pranam mantras in Mangal Artik and Guru Puja, that we go on following this tradition and not start to change things simply because there may be some excuse according to time, place, and circumstance. All these are things that are really, really important. And when we start thinking, of course, you know, nothing happens by chance. And we understand, I mean, how is it possible that, you know, someone like myself and other devotees, I mean, I was born in a basically an atheistic family, basically agnostic. And although we went to church, that particular religion had no idea who God was. They just blindly followed some tradition. And in church, because the pastor really didn't know, you know, what to talk about, a lot of times they just get around and talk about the Vietnam War and talk about how to engage in good activities, you know, good social activities to help the ills of society. So how is it that myself and my brother, who's, I won't say anything for myself, but who's a really pure soul and who dragged me to Krishna consciousness, how is it possible that we were able to somehow or other, so many devotees come, even so many devotees are still coming from the West and surrendering to the movement after engaging in so many abominable activities and you know, and taking birth in so many sinful cultures. And the only possible explanation that I can come up with is that the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya has fully taken birth in Kali Yuga. And Lord Chaitanya is sending so many representatives in all different cultures all over the world. So the Sankirtan movement can take root very quickly, just like when Srila Prabhupada came here. And within a few short years, the movement spread like anything. So just kind of in regards to what I was saying before, this has been kind of a theme in my mind also, that now we should preach, we should become determined to preach Krishna consciousness really boldly. And we understand it just like we were plants and Krishna somehow planted us. And therefore, whatever, detriments we had, Srila Prabhupada explains that as we go on in Krishna consciousness, those things can become assets. And this is the essence of our philosophy, as explained by Rupa Goswami. This yukta vairagyam, using everything for Krishna's service. So there's so many people now who I think they're maybe in government, they may be working in the environment, they may be social service servants, they may be acting in so many different capacities. These are actually devotees. And there's a flame of devotional service. There's a spark within their heart. And by our bold preaching and by our purity, these people will, just like we did, they'll become inspired by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, by our own devotional purity, and by that mass, by this engaging all these people in Krishna consciousness, the mass movement of Krishna consciousness can take root and can spread very quickly. So it's by, long-winded answer, but it's by Prabhupada's mercy, and it's also by somehow or other our good fortune in previous lifetimes that we were able to get the association with Srila Prabhupada. But as we're hearing, it doesn't matter, somehow or other we've got here. It doesn't matter how. Now we have to realize our good fortune and just take it very seriously. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much.